The initial and pitch is a standard military approach used to enter a circuit for landing. Using this approach reduces how long you are low and slow in a circuit, and this keeps your combat effective in a hostile environment. On a standard initial and pitch, you want to check for circuit traffic as you approach. Then you fly over the active runway at 1,000 feet. At your brake point, you reduce the power to idle and then initiate a 180-degree brake turn. At the end of your brake turn, you drop your gear and flaps, and then you'll descend for a circular base final leg. Let's now perform an initial and pitch in-game. Okay, we're established on runway heading and approaching the runway at 1,000 feet. As we get closer, we end up losing the runway under the nose, so I'm going to lean out to the left and I'm going to check the buildings to make sure I have a good reference point on my brake. Now for this initial and pitch, I'm going to be performing the brake by the end of the runway. Over the runway I'm at heading 310, so as I perform my brake turn I'm going to roll out on 130. Getting towards the end of the runway, drop the throttle to idle, perform the brake turn. Maintaining altitude, check runway position, and then we roll out on heading 130. Now you'll see we're also at a safe airspeed to drop our landing gear, so we do that. And now we can just follow our circuit as normal to land. For the initial and pitch, you'll be flying initial when you're on the runway heading, and then you perform your pitch, which is the brake turn. But to perform this brake safely, it's advised to brake behind the aircraft already established on downwind. And don't forget to adjust your brake, that way you can roll out in the correct distance from the runway. Now after you brake on downwind, you have two main choices. You can either adjust your power to maintain a normal circuit, or you can leave it at low power and have a shorter circuit for landing. Now what you've just seen was a standard initial and pitch. What I'm going to show you next is a variation on that. I'm going to be flying initial at 500 feet, and then I'm going to perform what's called a fan pitch, where I climb in the brake turn up to 1,000 feet. Okay, on this initial and pitch you can see I'm at 500 feet, or 150 meters, flying over runway heading. Now I'm going to perform the brake nice and early, so I cut the throttle and do the brake, and then I also begin my climb at the same time and bring it up to 1,000 feet. Because I've started out at the lower altitude, that allows me to perform the brake turn a lot earlier if I want, because this way I bleed off even more airspeed by performing a climb during the brake turn. Gear is already deployed, so we drop our flaps and finish our circuit at low power. So when doing a fanned initial and pitch, you want to be flying below 1,000 feet. Upon the brake, you do the brake and the climb to the desired height. This lets you brake earlier and you can bleed off your speed faster than with a standard initial and pitch. Those were two ways of doing an initial and pitch, but the process itself is completely variable. It's all about changing from high speed into the circuit and landing as fast as possible. So you can always experiment with the initial and pitch and find out what way works for you, but you want to make sure that you're always checking for other aircraft in the circuit so you can do your initial and pitch safely. That was the video covering the initial and pitch.